Hi, I'm Dr. Alex Canseco. I'm a mom, a vet, and a creative. And this video is a must watch if you are the owner of a dog or a cat or both, and especially if you have a baby and one who is eating solid foods. Because undoubtedly, like mine, half or more of what is put on their high chair or on the table gets thrown onto the floor. And of course, who's waiting right by the chair? Probably your dog, or maybe even your cat sneaking by. So really important to know what foods to watch out for, what to completely avoid having in the house, and when to know whether or not you should call your vet or the Poison Control Center. In this video, I will cover the top 8 most toxic foods to dogs and cats. And I'm gonna lay them out here on this high chair. These ones are not gonna be falling on the floor though. And I will discuss their toxic principles, some of the clinical signs you may expect to see, and the actions that you should take if you suspect that your dog or cat has ingested one of these. First one, and one of the worst ones I think, just because it is hidden in many foods and non-food items, including but not limited to sugar-free foods such as candy, chewing gum, baked goods, jelly beans, protein bars, some peanut butters, medications, toothpaste, cosmetics, sunscreens, hair care products, just to name a few. And that is xylitol. It is extremely toxic to dogs, but it does not appear to be toxic to cats, however. So good news on that front. Like I said, it can be found in chewing gum, and it's actually quite a common ingredient in chewing gum, as well as most of the natural toothpaste for children and adults alike. Actually, there are very few, if any, natural baby toothpastes that don't have xylitol in them. One that I did find was Burt's Bees, but if you have any others that you know of, please let me know down in the comments so that other moms, other parents can be made aware of that. And so, of course, for me too. The problem with xylitol is that it can cause insulin release, which can lead to liver failure in dogs. Increase in insulin leads to low blood sugar levels. And initial signs of toxicosis include vomiting, lethargy, and loss of coordination. Signs can progress to seizures and even death. Elevated liver enzymes and liver failure can be seen within a few days. If you have a dog, it is best to keep xylitol out of the house completely. Don't even bring it in the house. It's not worth the risk, in my opinion. If you think your dog has ingested a xylitol-containing product, call your vet ASAP. The sooner you get your pet to the vet, the better the prognosis. Number 2, grapes and raisins. Here they are. The toxic compound in grapes and raisins is unknown, but it can lead to kidney failure in dogs. The amount of grapes and raisins that a dog has to eat to cause toxicity can vary between individuals and is not dependent on the size of the dog. So some dogs can eat huge amounts of grapes and raisins without any ill effects at all, whereas other dogs may eat just one grape or raisin and develop kidney issues. Only anecdotal reports exist of toxicity for cats, so we don't really think it is an issue for cats. However, probably best to steer clear just in case. So, if your dog has ingested grapes, it's best to get them to your local veterinarian ASAP. Typically, we would induce emesis just to make sure that we've cleared any grapes out of the system and can decrease any side effects that those may have on the kidneys. I don't feed grapes to my son in the house at all, just for fear that he's going to drop them onto the floor, because it just takes a split second for him to throw something on the floor or swipe everything off the table. So it's not worth it, but I do occasionally feed him grapes out of the house. Number 3. This is kind of a dual topic because I'm going to talk about bread dough as well as alcohol, and you'll find out why in just a second. So bread dough and alcohol. If your dog or cat ingests bread dough can rise and cause gas to accumulate in your pet's digestive system. This can result in a painful, distended stomach, or even lead to a life-threatening condition called GDV, or gastric dilatation volvulus, where the stomach twists and continues to expand. It is a problem for both species, cats and dogs, and as the dough sits in the stomach, the yeast in the dough will ferment, and that's what produces that gas. But also, as that yeast ferments, it produces ethanol or alcohol, which is absorbed by the bloodstream and can lead to alcohol toxicity. Alcohol toxicity alone can cause vomiting, diarrhea, decreased coordination, just like in people, central nervous system depression, difficulty breathing, tremors, coma, and even death. Signs generally begin within 30 to 60 minutes of ingestion. So if you suspect your pet has ingested bread dough or alcohol for that matter, contact your vet or the ASPCA Poison Control Center immediately. And I'm going to give you links and contact information down below, so do check that out. For chocolate and caffeine containing products like coffee, chocolate and coffee, yum, my 2 favorites. So these products all contain substances called methylxanthines, such as theobromine and caffeine. So when ingested by your dog or cat, methylxanthines can cause vomiting, diarrhea, panting, excessive thirst and urination, hyperactivity, abnormal heart rhythm, tremors, seizures, and even death. See the pattern here? Very similar in a lot of cases. So sometimes it can be difficult to determine exactly what your pet has ingested, but if they're exhibiting any of these clinical signs, it's best to get them to the vet, no matter what. If you can find the offending product, even better. Now, the darker the chocolate, the more methylxanthines that it contains. White chocolate has the lowest level of methylxanthines, whereas baking chocolate contains the highest. Toxicity level is dose dependent, unlike grapes. If you think your dog has ingested chocolate or coffee, contact your veterinarian. In this case, they may not need to be treated for toxicity depending on the type and amount of chocolate or coffee that they have ingested. But if you don't know exactly how much they've ingested, it's best just to get them over to your vet ASAP. Number 5, onions, garlic, and chives. These vegetables and herbs may not cause any issues if eaten in very small amounts. They can, however, cause gastrointestinal irritation such as vomiting, diarrhea, if more is ingested. For example, a whole green onion or a few cloves of garlic, especially in cats. And if it's eaten on a regular basis, it can lead to red blood cell damage and a condition called Heinz body anemia. Though cats are more susceptible than dogs, dogs are also at risk if a large enough amount is consumed. And toxicity is normally diagnosed through history, clinical signs, and microscopic confirmation of Heinz bodies on blood work. Now, keep in mind that some baby foods and many store-bought chicken stocks, vegetable stocks, bone broths will contain garlic and onions. So do check the labels carefully. Number 6, macadamia nuts. So like grapes, the toxic principle in macadamia nuts is unknown. Dogs who were experimentally dosed with macadamia nuts developed clinical signs within 12 hours and were clinically normal without treatment within 48 hours. So to put this into perspective, a 25 kilogram or 55 pound dog would have to eat at least 500 grams or approximately 1 pound of macadamia nuts to develop clinical signs. And the clinical signs include weakness, depression, vomiting, tremors, hypothermia. You should contact your veterinarian if you think your dog has ingested macadamia nuts, and at a minimum, They could induce vomiting to try and minimize the clinical signs, especially if a large amount was ingested. Number 7, rhubarb. The toxic principle in rhubarb are soluble calcium oxalates. When these soluble oxalate salts are absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract, they bind with the body's calcium and they can result in a sudden drop in calcium. So rarely acute renal failure can occur, especially if the leaves of the plants are ingested, because it is the leaves of the plant that contain the most calcium oxalates. And typically eating the stalks only will not cause any issues at all. Clinical signs of this type of poisoning can include drooling, inappetence, vomiting, diarrhea, lethargy, weakness, tremors, bloody urine, and changes in thirst and urination. Can affect both species of animals, cats and dogs. It can also affect humans too. And especially if a large amount of leaves was ingested, as I had mentioned. However, most foods containing rhubarb use the stalks for their recipes, so shouldn't be too much of an issue. Interestingly, rhubarb poisoning was a problem in humans in World War I Britain when the government recommended it as an alternative food source due to other food shortages, and people were eating a lot of it. And for the final, number 8, you are unlikely feeding this item to your baby. However, it can be toxic to both your baby, your dog, and your cat, and that is marijuana. I thought I would include this item here as it has become legalized in various American states and probably across the world, including California, where I live. And apparently over the past 6 years, the Pet Poison Helpline has experienced a 448% increase in marijuana cases. Almost any food can be infused with marijuana. One of the more common ones are brownies and pot butter. And eating brownies can be a double problem, especially because they also contain chocolate. And common symptoms of marijuana toxicity include sedation, lethargy, dilated pupils or glassed over eyes, dazed expression, incoordination, and vomiting. Other symptoms can include either a low or high heart rate, vocalization such as whining and crying, agitation, trouble regulating temperature, causing the temperature to drop or even rise, and incontinence, dribbling urine. That's a common one I've seen actually in dogs. Tremors, seizures, and potentially coma. And this can, like I said, can be a problem for your child as well. I'm sure you're not feeding marijuana edibles to your baby. And so it's not so much a problem of it dropping off from your baby's high chair, but teenagers in the home, friends in the home, you yourself, if you're taking marijuana for medical reasons and recreational reasons, just need to be aware of this because it can be pretty dangerous if ingested in high amounts. So signs of marijuana toxicity can be seen anywhere between 5 minutes and 12 hours after the animal is exposed to it. And the signs can potentially last 30 minutes to several days even, depending on the dose ingested. Although there is no true antidote for marijuana toxicity, as vets, we can induce vomiting and we can offer supportive care to try and get your pet through the worst of it and treat their clinical signs. So coming to the end of this video, just want to sum up that there are other foods that may be harmful to your dog and cat, especially if consumed in high amounts, but the ones that I have covered in this video pose the greatest danger, and at least be aware of these 8. If you think that your dog or cat has ingested any of the toxins mentioned in this video, please call your local vet and or ASPCA Poison Control Center on 888-426-4435. I have put down links at the bottom of this video in regards to foods that are toxic to dogs and cats. For more information, do check those out. The ASPCA normally charges a consult fee, but they are the poison control experts. And now, before you call the poison control center or your veterinarian, it can be very helpful if you have with you any of the packaging of the food that your pet has ingested, if you can figure out roughly how much of it they ate. So this can be really helpful for both your veterinarian and the poison control center in determining toxicity risk and appropriate treatment, as well as, of course, the prognosis. Most importantly, the sooner you get your pet to the vet, the better. And this brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please check out my other videos. Please press the like button, subscribe, and if you want notifications for when my next video is coming up, the bell button. I post 1 video per week. My next video will be about the products that I think are essential for a child of 0 to 12 months. And this is one of them. This is Owen's high chair. Actually, this is an awesome one. So I will talk to you about that and other products in my next video. It's not a sponsored video. I'm not getting paid for it. I just want to spread the love, let you know what worked for me. Maybe it'll help out other moms, other parents in deciding what things they may want to buy for their little one. So do check that video out. Next week, I post once a week on Thursdays at 8:30. We'll see you guys then. Bye.